I once thought my toughest mission was hunting down Iraq's deadliest sniper, Juba. But years later, I heard my best friend's voice over the radio, giving his last full measure of devotion, not out of hatred for the enemy, but out of love for his team. That was the hardest day of my life. Dark Horse is my tribute to the men and women who shaped my life, the Marines I served alongside, and the friends I lost along the way. This book is a roadmap. It's drawn from harrowing, brutally honest accounts of combat, quiet moments of reflection in the face of failure, and a call to action for what comes next. In these pages, you'll find pain, resilience, leadership, and the kind of hard-earned lessons that only war can teach. Lessons that ultimately point to something deeper: hope.
That was retired U.S. Marine Corps Scout Sniper Amantangelo Pasciuti. He introducing his first ever book, titled Dark Horse: Harnessing Hidden Potential in War and Life. The memoir reveals an in-depth look at AJ's career in the military and what he's learned during his time in uniform. We're happy to say he joins us now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. We're so glad you could be here, particularly on Memorial Day. Please, for those who don't know your story, tell a little bit about your time in combat and how that shaped you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, especially on Memorial Day. One, to be able to write Dark Horse, to be able to tell our story and remember the Marines and soldiers and sailors that I fought alongside and who didn't make it home. For me personally, I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened, and I was compelled to service from there and joined the Marine Corps 3 weeks later. Within that, I stepped right off into Operation Iraqi Freedom 1 in 2003 and spent the next 21 years relatively in harm's way, moving through the ranks of the Marine Corps, eventually fighting in Fallujah as a sniper in training, going back for my third tour as a scout sniper team leader in 2006, and then continuing to cross into special operations as a reconnaissance and force reconnaissance team leader, deploying to both Afghanistan and North Africa, and then eventually commissioning as an officer later on in my career. And through that whole journey, what I learned was that it always came back to the team. It always came back to the members that we served alongside.
And that was sort of striking about this book is you're trying to tell those stories, the friendship, the comradeship. Tell us about who you're thinking about on this Memorial Day.
Well, that one hits. Forgive me.
Of course.
So Memorial Day is very tough for service members. You know, we each have an independent day, or unfortunately many days where we memorialize where we've lost someone special to us. Memorial Day is when all of those names and those faces come home into one specific day. And so it kind of hits us like a wave. You know, I've never really had a happy Memorial Day. What we do is we have a Memorial Day that we try to sit and take a moment and remember the Marines and sailors that we served alongside and try to live a life in their honor. That's really the thing that we try to take it. We don't want it to be super somber all day. We want to be able to say, we have moved through this, we have witnessed their sacrifice, and we want to live a life of service for them and in their honor itself. So Matt Ingham, to answer your question, who this book is dedicated to, Staff Sergeant Ingham and I were the closest of friends in Afghanistan, and on January 11th, 2010, he was ambushed, and we couldn't get to him in time before he and two other members of his team lost their lives.
We're thinking of him this morning. We just showed live images there, the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. So what made you decide that you wanted to write this? And what do you hope readers will take from it?
Well, that's a fantastic question. For me, you know, there's a story inside of the book that I understand is the hook. So I was a scout sniper who hunted an enemy sniper for a number of years. So the sniper's name was Juba. And Juba was one of the America's deadliest sniper adversaries. In 2004, we had 4 Marine snipers that were ambushed and killed, and with them, they lost a Marine sniper rifle. And that sniper rifle fell into enemy hands and killed what we estimate to be over 140 Americans. That was a real problem for us, and we took it extremely personally. One of the things that we did was we watched Juba's videos. What he did was he posted videos online to exploit to show his exploits, and so we studied him. And part of that journey was to be able to figure out how to hunt him back and eventually set up a trap for Juba to fall into. And we were fortunate enough to be ready when that happened. And we returned that Marine sniper rifle back to Marine Corps hands, of which sits in the United States National Museum of the Marine Corps in Quantico, Virginia. I used that as a way to be able to write a story about my friends. The idea of a Dark Horse. So first, Dark Horse is the name of the unit that I started my career with, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines out of Camp Pendleton. And then Dark Horse is also saying that it's this kind of this journey of someone who didn't have high expectations for himself. When I was a young man, before I joined the military, I suffered from low ideas of self-efficacy, self-doubt, didn't think I would amount to much. For me, it was people along the way that helped me realize my own potential. As a sniper, I believe in trajectory. And what they did was they fundamentally altered the trajectory of my life. So I used the sniper story to be able to write a book about my friends. The way that I describe it is, imagine a double helix of a DNA strand. Those are the Marine stories as we go through time. What I wanted to do was use my timeline as a linear through line to be able to tell the stories about the people that affected my life all the way through my career.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your service. Thank you for bringing the memory of your friends to us. We really appreciate it. The new book titled Dark Horse, Harnessing Hidden Potential in War and Life. Amentangelo Sciuto, thank you so much. Prosciutto, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.